Hey everyone, I've got a game that I think you'll really get a kick out of. Man, I really need to stop doing that. You know what, we're just gonna pretend that never happened. The game's called Corpus EDAX, and it's finally here, and it's time to get real creative with what we bonk bad guys on the head with. In case all of this looks very new and strange to you, I'll catch up. A bit over a year ago, we banded together to help fund an Indiegogo project for an aspiring immersive sim, and we did it. Now, Corpus EDAX is here, and we can play it for ourselves and see just what we've done. Overall, I had a great time with it, but I very much was in that ImSim mindset where anything the game wants me to do is secondary to just seeing what I can get away with. Corpus EDAX is a game about a guy who gets reawakened on a distant world and thrown into a revolution, and it features a unique stat system, lots of kicking, and some proper box stacking. And quite a bit of jank. We'll get into that later, but I'm not going to try and lie to you or conceal it. Corpus EDAX has quite a bit of jank to it, but at least for me, it was a fun kind of jank where you can goof around and laugh at people hitting their head against stuff as you kick them. Like I said though, more on this later. I'm also going to preface this now by saying that the majority of my captured footage is pre-release, and I will be marking it on the screen when it's pre-release footage, but I'm going to try and show mainly like post-release stuff. Now, before we get into gameplay, there's one thing I'd like to address. I saw this comment on my last video and had a realization. Frisk is generally a real mouthy boy, especially when he's hungry or when the dishwasher is running. But in the videos I take of him, he rarely makes any noise. I, however, not one to disappoint, timed getting my phone out to record Frisk at just the right time when he's mouthing off and got some meows on camera. Also, if it sounds like I'm huffing and puffing here, it's because I did just get back from the gym, which is the ideal time because he loves to scream at me when I get back from the gym for some reason. Like he just, I think he's in a where were you were gone for so long type of mood.
Oh, you don't want to meow anymore? Oh, there it is. There it is. What a chocolate.
Corpus EDAX is first and foremost a first-person beat-em-up. The primary focus of the game is punching things and throwing things at dudes until they fall down and don't get back up. There's some nuance to it. You can't just mash light attacks or heavy attacks or some very simple combination if you want to keep using your life, as enemies will learn your pattern and start either blocking or even weaving around your blows. They also can and will gang up on you. I was never able to quite get all like the special combos down, but in the tutorial there is a place where you can practice them. It wasn't much of an issue for me though, as once you put a lot of points into combat, there's not much that's going to be able to stand up to you for more than a few seconds. Or technique. Everyone talks tough until you merge an oil drum with their face. Speaking of technique, that's how you get better at throwing things, and I think improvised weapons too. There are no guns in this new future, but that's okay because there are plenty of bottles and rusty pipes laying around to merge with NPCs' bodies. If something can be picked up, it can be used as a weapon. More on that particular feature later, as we've also got things to throw at people. Your technique measures how fast and how far you're able to throw things, and once you put some proper points into it, you'll be able to throw bottles at Mach 0.9 or hurl bricks with enough precision to pick which kneecap you're going to render inoperable. Little things are great for stunning a single person, and then big things are great for treating the bad guys like human bowling pins. Hey, check out this bowling ball I found. So since I've been talking about stats, I think it would be a good idea to explain how Corpus EDAX does its stats and abilities. Corpus EDAX uses a system called Agnes, which is short for Allure, Grit, Nerd, Intuition, and Strength. It's similar to how modern Fallout games do Special. Allure is pretty much for speech checks and speech checks only, as it governs no skills. It would have been nice if there was some sort of like way high Allure characters could turn an enemy to their side in combat or something, but it's really maybe like 2, 3, or maybe even 4 speech checks throughout the game from what I found. Grit helps govern your athletic skills and also determines your HP pool. I've played enough Souls games to know the importance of bulk, so you bet that my most recent character, the Girth, had Grit as his primary stat, with Strength being the secondary one. Level your Grit. Next is Nerd, which helps with systems and stealth, and I think there's a speech check or two here and there. I'll also just say that just about all major skills have speech checks associated with them, with the exception of Grit because bulk is already a good way to get past most encounters. Second to last is Intuition, which has a lot of speech checks and governs a couple skills, but in all honesty, my builds tended to use it as a dump stat. And finally, there is Strength. It makes you strong and good at violence. The Girth was my 6th character build, and the one I got most efficient at building my stats with. Having lots of HP and a solid combat stat gets you just about anywhere in Corpus EDAX, and once you've got combat settled, you can fill out your other stats as you go wherever you see fit. Don't worry about having low base stats the whole game either, as on top of skill books you can find pretty much everywhere, like this one that's a reference to VTM, which adds a couple free points to your stealth. There are also skill items for your base stats, and you'll get XP rewards for both base stats and skills as you progress. The last thing to talk about here is that leveling skills will unlock abilities like better combos, more mobility while sneaking, and being able to kick a door off its hinges because picking locks is lame. In spite of all of this and the stat system, the most fun I had in the game was just hopping around the map. Athletics is essentially a completely optional skill to put points into and won't do much for you in combat or speech checks, but there's something so satisfying about getting into the city, seeing all those external ventilation shafts, buildings, and other stuff you can climb all over and going, alright, let's see how I get on top of all these buildings. Especially in the early game, there are tons of alternate paths to find and plenty of rewards for doing so. I found skill books and money on rooftops, and it's just plain fun to take dudes out by dropping a garbage can on them from the top of a building. It scratches that itch that most Assassin's Creed games pretend to scratch, where you actually can climb around on stuff and figure out how to get up to the top of a place instead of just holding down a button and having the game do it for you. Hell, at the beginning of the game, the doctor that revives you just goes, yeah, go goof around on that jungle gym for a bit and you'll feel better. And you know what? I did feel better. Now, I know what you all come here for. Okay, aside from the cat videos, and aside from the cooking segments, and aside from the rare moments maybe once a year where I upload something just really out there. And that's the Immersive Sims. And that's what the case is for Corpus EDAX. Corpus EDAX is very much a play how you want kind of game within certain limits we'll talk about later. Stealth is always an option, and you even get that old school thief style bonking animation when you sneak up on a guy to melee them down. If you've got the right stats, you can speed check your way through most encounters, including the final boss. Knock people out or give them the forever sleep. The choice is yours. As for some more hardcore simminess, anything, and I mean anything, can be a weapon. Loose pipes and electrical conduits? Check. Bricks, bottles, and other small objects laying around? Check. Any large object that can be picked up? Yep, you can throw it at some guy's head too. Heck, you can even use large objects to break down doors you don't feel like doing the lockpicking minigame on. Anything that can be held can be thrown or used as an improvised weapon, including health kits. Once you use the 2 charges in a health syringe, it becomes a very large, very stabby needle that can take a pretty impressive chunk out of someone's health pool, and throwing them makes for a great opening salvo in a fight. Heck, you can throw knockdown enemies at still standing ones, and on that note, if you can't hack a facial recognition scanner, you can grab the ragdolls of downed enemies by individual areas, including their limbs and their head, and grab them by their dead face to open the door for you. Also, this game just has amazing ragdolling, and I miss when more games had silly ragdoll animations. What's easily my favorite sim thing is that Corpus EDAX does these little portable barricade things. I forget what they're called, but you can probably see it in game, which you find everywhere, and of course they can be used as a blunt weapon like everything else in the game, but they also extend on impact when you throw them, so they can be used as an obstacle or even a way to trap enemies. And what's even better is that if you throw these at a wall, they extend and they are sturdy enough for you to jump on them and use them as a means to open new paths. I love stuff like this. More games need to have stuff like this or the glue gun from Typhon in them, because it really lets you goof around in a level and discover places you might not be able to go otherwise. Maybe places you aren't supposed to go. These little suckers can get you just about anywhere if you have enough of them, and can turn some otherwise plain areas into some fun platforming. And yes, it's an immersive sim, so there is a kick. I like the kick. The kick is fun. The kick really lets you see those silly ragdolls. Your kick gets stronger as you put more points in their combat, and eventually you get a perk that turns your charge kick into an insta ragdoll launching tool. And then if that wasn't enough, you get what I was talking about a little while ago, where your kick gets so strong that it will rip doors doors off their hinges, negating the need to use a lockpick, and a great way to initiate combat too. I also love that right around the time you're most likely able to get the super kick, they put you in a level that's nothing but stairwells overlooking a large bottomless pit. I know exactly what I need to do here. Okay, now let's do a brief summary of the world before we do the plot synopsis with spoilers, and yeah, this is gonna be brief. The world of Corpus EDAX follows a post-Earth humanity onto a colony of sorts where people are just barely getting by and there aren't nearly enough resources for everyone at once, so the bulk of the colonists are still in stasis and awakened as needed to prevent humanity from burning what little resources this new home has to offer. This new home is a literal tiered city, with the dregs of society on the bottom working in the mines and the world government on top. The lower you go, the less law and order you get. The world government also decided that this was going to be a massive cultural reset for humanity with only one language allowed in a very strict pecking order. Obviously, people do not like this, and a revolutionary group formed called the Salvation. The Salvation was doing okay until their leader Jackson died, and now the remaining members are just sort of holding out until something happens. You happen. Alright, spoiler time, you know what to do. So you are awakened, and right off the bat, once you get into your apartment, you find out that your given job was an outright lie, and there's really nothing for you to do out here. For the most part, the gangs run the lower city you're in, and they have an arrangement with the world government for something. Upon going to bed, you have a strange dream where Jackson, the now dead leader of the Salvation, is able to contact you and give you information that only he would know to deliver to their acting leader, Jackie. You go find Jackie, and she's reasonably suspicious that someone who just got de-popsicle-ified would know about their dead leader and his secrets, but she's got bigger issues. What you give her is a hit list comprising of the members of the secret world government whose identities are kept a secret to keep them safe. Until now. Before that, you've just got to go into a gang stronghold and figure out what's happening to a bunch of the Salvation members who keep getting kidnapped by them. That's your problem now. Turns out they're just killing them and leaving them in a storage fridge for someone to pick up for something. I wonder what's up with that. We have a shadow government to subvert though, so we'll think about that later. The first guy goes down pretty easy, and this guy that insisted on coming with us and doing the fighting just got to stand there and watch as I put a pitchfork through the supposed leader of the world's face. Before the next guy, we gotta do what anyone does on a Saturday night and start a fight with everyone in the club, so this lady from another faction will give us the means to break into the mines, because there's an access point to some secret laboratories, which is because the laboratory needs a lot of dudes for their dude shoot. That's pretty wild. I wonder what's going on here. Why are we feeding the giant hole to the center of the planet all the corpses we can get? We violence our way through the fancy residential areas, fight a really big dude, and finally we end up breaking into the apartment complex of the world elite. And finally we get there. Just as we break down the doors of the literal control center for this entire bastion of humanity and take out the last of the shadow government, our player character passes out and we have one last dream from Jackson. It turns out that Jackson is actually the living embodiment of this planet we're on, and it really annoyed him that the world government was throwing people into his core to create energy, so he devised a plan to get rid of us all. That plan is to assume direct control of us now that all possible obstacles are out of our way, and turn off the oxygen for all of humanity. This is the bad end. Now, Epic McDude says there are 9 different endings to Corpus EDAX, and I'm pretty sure this is the worst possible one. People have postulated that one of the endings is that if Jackie somehow survives the final fight, she'll snap you out of the mind control, and I saw there were 2 speech checks I couldn't pass before the final confrontation, so that's at least 4 endings right there. Alright, it's time to talk about what you've most likely been able to clearly see for most of this video. The game is pretty jank. Dudes get stuck in geometry all the time if you kick them too hard or in the wrong place, or sometimes I kick dudes so hard they cease to exist, and I don't think that's a jibbing thing, because there are no jibs. I stopped using the vending machines because I accidentally stockpiled too many cans of protein, and I think I did an integer overflow or whatever it's called, because now I have 0 protein cans no matter how many I collect. They don't even show up in my inventory anymore. And sometimes parts of an area just won't load in, but you can still walk on surfaces that are supposed to be there. There's also a lot of features that were heavily truncated or just outright cut. Maybe unfinished is the right term. For instance, there's only 1 faction rating in the menu, which doesn't seem to change much. However, there are plenty of notifications that I've lost favor with other factions because I keep killing their dudes. Nothing ever comes of that though. There's also how doing certain actions like lockpicking or saying certain things in dialogue trees will give you some points in a tertiary stat system. Stuff like impetus or altruistic, a sort of personality point thing. thing, I guess. That also goes nowhere. You might also notice that there are save stations all about the place, but you can only use a quick save and an autosave that happens each time you enter a new level. You will also find yourself collecting a lot of money, and the only places to spend it are that one weapon shop in the Salvation headquarters and at vending machines. However, remember how I said it was a lot of fun to hop around the map and use those portable platform things to get to places you normally aren't supposed to be? Well, yeah, I found my way into an unused shopping center complete with NPCs that I couldn't interact with, which makes you wonder what other cut things are still somewhere in this game. On that note, though, I think there might not be much, as this game suffers from a bad case of Dark Souls level design syndrome, which, in case you never played the first Dark Souls, means that while the first area is really well designed and has a lot of cool stuff in it, later on the game and the levels just kind of fall apart into big empty nothings with no secrets to find in them. I first really started to notice this in the mines, which, despite being a sprawling maze of stairways and little office buildings to check out, the only real object in any of these buildings was a key card that you needed to get into the laboratory to continue the story. Later on, when you get into those fancy offices, aside from one utility closet which has some stuff in it and the occasional rusty pipe in the hallway in case you need a new weapon, there's basically nothing in this massive level leading up to a boss fight aside from some patrols that you can kinda dodge if you break down the windows and hang out in the spaces above office buildings. But unfortunately, in those spaces above office buildings, they're all spread out in a way where you can't really use them to go from one area to another. They're just kind of there in case you are low on HP and need to hide for a bit. Now's the part where I can give a little insight into this. I was lucky enough to get advanced access to Corpus EDAX with enough time for me to get a video out for the release date. The original release date, that is. I got a front row seat to watching Epic McDude frantically bug squash, and I ended up helping in whatever way I could. Heck, I ended up playing most of the game without the ability to make my own saves and was reliant on the autosave system, which made me very, very good at the first few levels and how I make my builds. I've tried to show as little footage from the pre-release version of this game as possible because that does not reflect the insane amount of work put in by Epic McDude to make sure that there were no catastrophic issues for normal players on day one. After things were getting pretty intense after the first release date got pushed back, I ended up advising him that, hey, maybe he should put this off until maybe the end of September or perhaps end of October. And that's when he told me the game had to come out because he'd ran out of money from the Indiegogo campaign, and apparently Steam does not take kindly to repeated delays that close to launch anyway. I think it's prudent to remember that Corpus EDAX was quite literally made by one dude. No exaggeration, the only credits in this game are Epic McDude himself, his brother who made some of the music, and a few song attributions. Epic McDude made this out of pure passion, with a frantic schedule, to the point that at least based on the time zone differences between us, the dude was pulling some insane hours. Yeah, Corpus EDAX is pretty rough and frankly a lot of places, but the fact that this is a one-man show going balls to the walls and what little budget he was able to get out of that Indiegogo campaign is important here. What's even more important context is that, in case you haven't already bought the game, Epic McDude has been patching this game like a madman since it hit public release. He's been uploading patches to fix bugs 2, 3, sometimes 4 times a day, squashing whatever bugs are brought to him on the forums. This is a labor of love, and that labor isn't ending for him now that the game is released. The game is already a radically better experience than it was 1 week ago, and especially 2 weeks ago. This isn't some scummy thing made to get rich quick or flip assets. Like, heck, I'm pretty sure most if not all of this is original stuff, and he's doing everything he can to make it work. Sometimes things just get rough, you know? And with that, my final thoughts on Corpus EDAX are a bit complicated. Yeah, it's an immersive sim with some really cool concepts, but it is outright unfinished in not just some places, and despite the latter, the developer of this game has been working non-stop to get it in a shippable state, and then working non-stop some more to help squash the litany of bugs that people have been experiencing. Would I recommend it? Yes, in the name of supporting the dev and on the good faith that Epic McDude has been putting insane amounts of overtime to clean things up and create a good experience. Will he restore some of that cut stuff I was able to find or rework systems to either restore them to what they were or a more streamlined version of his original vision? I don't know. That is his prerogative, but this is also his dream that he made real with our help when we funded this Indiegogo. Many people, myself included, tinker around with their passion project for years on end, and they will never have it see the light of day, no matter how many times I put in my New Year's resolutions that this is the year I finish the draft of this damn book. Although I finally have gotten out of a pretty big rut in recent weeks, so maybe there's hope for me. One more thing before I wrap this up. Do you like immersive sims? Do you like dinosaurs? Well then boy, have I got something for you. Another indie passion project called Athanasia just launched its Kickstarter, and yes, it is an immersive sim with dinosaurs. It also has a free demo for you to try out if you're feeling like it, and if you're feeling lazy, I made a video about it last week that you can check out. I am foregoing the usual internet engagement begging this week to ask you to please consider backing this game on its Kickstarter so that we can make some more dreams come true and get some more cool ass games in the process. Next week, we are finally getting the Forbidden Transformers trilogy. Whew, my schedule's been getting a bit intense lately. After that, we'll have some downtime before Indieween begins, and I've got a great lineup this year. One more thing I'll bring up before we sign off is that I've recently dusted off the cobwebs on a certain purple website that I must allude to because, like all platforms, this one we're on here does not like it when you try to drive traffic away from it to somewhere else. I don't have any serious plans for streaming just yet, but I figure it'd be better to do it there than on here, since that way folks who aren't interested in streaming won't be bothered by all the notifications. And also, I can use a platform away from here to do stuff that isn't a good fit for the channel. I've got two ideas for what I'd like to start doing for streams. I just don't know when, since I'm really busy lately. Like, I've got a lot of plans even beyond Indieween. The first big idea would be a Souls-a-thon, where I start with Demon's Souls on the PS3, since I put a lot of work into this capture system and I want to get some use out of it. And then Dark Souls, and then Dark Souls 2, and 3, and maybe Bloodborne, and then Elden Ring. The second is called Shockathon, where I'd start with OG System Shock, then SS2, BioShock 2, maybe Infinite, and finally the remake. Let me know if you feel strongly about either of those. Now let's sign off. Remember that no matter what you do, be it sculpting, dancing, or any other creative thing, what you do is not content. It is art. Content is a word that in recent years has been twisted into meaning a means to grind up all your skills, passions, and dreams into a gray sludge that has no meaning other than to make a line go up. Your art in no way deserves that. Art is sacred. Art is a reflection of its creator by the very act of its creation, and in no way do you deserve to be reduced to content. So get out there and fight against the contentification of everything by fighting for your art. Stay saucy, everyone.
It is the return of the table boy. Yeah, that's you. We finally got our table. And Frisky's just having a ball. Aren't you, buddy? What you doing? What you doing? What you doing down there? Yeah. Talk about you. You just having a good time with this table? This table that is much more light and utilitarian than the old thing, which broke and I had to throw it away? Yeah, you're a fine table boy. I'm gonna pet you. Denied. You're loving this. You're just all spread out, having a nice time. Wobbles on display. I'll leave you to it.